Hi, and welcome to this GRIDtalk session. Today I'm Pip Morpeth, I'm the CEO of Method Grid. And today I think most organisations, they've got processes, they've got guidance, they've got templates somewhere, if not everywhere. But still teams still find it difficult to find the information they need when they need it, still find it difficult to understand them, and then still find it even harder then to try and be consistent in ways of working. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Rider Levett Bucknall, and they've come on to tell us about the Helix, which is their journey on how to translate the DNA of service delivery into a platform that helps teams follow processes consistently across the organisation. So, Paul, Greta, I wonder if you could just give a short intro about who you are, and then maybe Paul, for the audience, just give people a bit more background, introduce RLB and the types of projects that you do.
Sure. So I'm Paul Beeston, and I'm a partner at Rider Levett Bucknall, and I'm head of industry and service insight. Greta.
So Gretta Starks, a partner at RLB as well. Like Paul, I serve on our service transformation board, and I'm head of project and programme management.
And Rider Levett Bucknall, RLB, as a business, we're a global organisation. We're independent, and we're a construction and property consultancy that spans all sectors of construction industry and property built environment. And we work with our clients to maximise the value that they get from their investments in the built environment. Our services, project management, cost management, built asset consultancy, health and safety, ESG services, and a number of other advisory services. So our services have developed quite a bit over the years, and that's probably a theme we'll explore as we go through the conversation today, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. So I suppose before Helix, we'll come on to it, but I think you had like an internal kind of knowledge base, was it intelligence? I suppose what were the kind of core challenges that you had with intelligence? And then, what were you kind of trying to look forward to in sort of, what was driving the change, I suppose, for RLB?
Yeah. I mean, the bones of intelligence, our system, had been with us for a number of decades. And over that time, our business has changed quite significantly. So at one point, we were sort of 300 people in the UK, and we'd grown over the time to be 4,500 people in every part of the globe. Our services had developed quite significantly over that time as well. We'd got a greater breadth of service offering. And really, we had kept intelligence up to date, but normally by sort of adding a bit on and tacking a bit on the side. And I think the result was that it had become a bit difficult for people to navigate and to use in their day-to-day activities and jobs.
I know, Paul, kind of our sort of experiences at RLB are quite different, aren't they? You've been here for a very long time, which is fantastic. There's a lot of people at RLB who stay. I'm a newer sort of joiner, and I've worked for some of our competitors, for some of our clients, and have seen sort of different systems. Joining RLB, intelligence was there. If the services we offer have changed, but our market's changed as well. Our clients change all the time. They're responding to a market that's constantly changing. If I, as a new person joining RLB, had something to add or bring to intelligence, we didn't have a neat way of bringing that. And I think as we're increasingly growing and bringing in, fantastic people, we want to make sure that we can carry on growing what we have. And intelligence wasn't helping us with that in the same way that we're able to now.
Yeah, I think. Well, a lot of clients, a lot of their traditional approach is everything's static, whereas I think what we're finding is actually the ways of working are becoming more and more dynamic. And I think when we talk to clients, it's, I don't have one way of working. My clients have different challenges, and we need to adapt our ways of working to work for them. But also we're kind of getting into a much more world where it's actually we have specialized ways of working. We build data centers is completely different to another type of project, but teams need the level of guidance that's there for them when they need it.
Yeah, and I think that the sort of realisation probably was in 2020 we sort of set a strategy for 2030, and we were sort of halfway through that, and we're just sort of not reinventing the strategy, but just dusting it off, and it became apparent probably just those points really. We needed to be more agile. The world was changing quicker around us. Our service delivery was needing to respond quicker, and we felt we needed a sort of platform to see us through to that sort of 2030 goal.
Mm-hmm. So what was the other kind of ambition for Helix? Was it kind of just a technology change, or was it something more like fundamental, or something more deeper about what it meant to be at RLB?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were aiming for something sort of deeper than a technology approach. It was a transformation of our services. And perhaps, if we just touch on the name Helix and where that came from, it was about connecting the strands of our services together, so into a sort of neat single place where the colleagues could understand what each other were doing in delivering a solution for a particular client. And also at the heart of it was our values. It was really important for us that our values were reflected in how we were describing we deliver for clients.
Yeah, I find it still some of the, especially for professional services firms, they're all different practices. I think I've spoken to a number of them, and we've done a number of sessions with them. But it's kind of, if we sell more than one service, it's like actually we spend half the time trying to work out how we actually would do that, and we're in the same organisation. So yeah.
You could play kind of collaboration bingo, couldn't you, with any conversation about built environment? We're always going to use that word, but what does it actually mean when you try to do that in practice? And if we've set up tools and ways of working that mean we're working in silos, you're just doing the opposite of what we want to be doing. So having the opportunity to think holistically about the solution our client wants and not letting our services or our kind of structure get in the way of that, actually having something that helps that, it was one of the things that was really exciting about this.
I suppose then on the moving on to kind of the build of Helix, what was it? I mean, Gretta, you were kind of involved. What was it like in the kind of early stages of, how do you go about trying to translate all of that existing knowledge into I think Helix is a playbook, isn't it? But how did you go about it, and what were the kind of core challenges that you faced when trying to do that?
Yeah, I think one of the once everybody had the vision for the platform and we understood what it could do, one of the really exciting things was realising that this wasn't an opportunity to do something once and then we were going to be stuck with it. What we needed to do was to create something that was fit for purpose to get going, and then to make sure we had the processes and the culture that enabled us to keep on sharpening and shaping. Because even if it had been 100% perfect in January when we launched, by now something would have changed in industry and it would have needed to change. And so that mindset of, what we're trying to do is set something up that we carry on shaping, helped, I think, with not feeling overwhelmed by what we were doing. And as long as the bones are right, it's just going to get better and better. So I think that's the way we approach it.
Yeah, I get caught in the tricky conversation I have sometimes with clients when we talk about how we're going to smarter ways of working for all of our ways of working are out of date, are out to date. Do we need to go away for like six months, write it all down, and then come back and put it into Method Grid or put it into a playbook? And I always kind of advise is no. I think actually the process that you follow in trying to codify ways of working into a playbook, naturally the outcome is you get a higher standard and a shared understanding across teams about what that is. And also, the reality is, I don't think teams have got the energy to go, I'm going to write it all down, and then 6 months later you're going to come back, and then we're going to digitalize it. I think if you're confident that the end outcome is, we'd be modernizing work using the playbook approach, I think you kind of navigate energy to kind of creating that outcome. Otherwise, I think you know how busy we all are. It's kind of, I've just spent ages writing now I'm back in to do workshops and sessions. But I think it's a hard balance where I'm the supplier and they're like, I'm sure that's what you would say, Pip. But I'm like,
and I think that the sort of playbook approach and sort of what we wanted to do was was not make it sort of any one person's sort of, writing it down. It had to feel like it was as built together for us, by us.
Yeah.
And I think putting the body of knowledge and the process in a single place actually makes it easier for people to collaborate on that refinement improvement approach. So I'd concur with that. I think it's don't let perfection get in the way of progress is the sort of the sort of saying, and I think we were keen to push on and make some progress and get something out there for us to work with and improve forever.
Yeah. At the sort of at that early stage, I suppose, I think the kind of core concept is that we're merging knowledge, guidance, and like the delivery and assurance checks and balances as an integrated solution for teams. But I think the initial reaction that was quite favourable. I think from the community, that's kind of what they wanted.
Yeah. It's technology helping people to do the right thing rather than making it harder, which is sometimes what we end up with, isn't it? If you those are all the right things to do, we're all busy. If they're happening in one place, it's so much easier to do the right thing. So, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons it's change, and we all have to get used to it. And that's undoubtedly there's a journey that people have to go on, and we're having to invest some time to do that. But if people can see that actually it's ultimately, once they get their head around it, you're taking out some steps that they would have had, that's a really helpful message.
Yeah. I suppose then the build process is the build process. I think it does. I think it involved virtually a lot. I think my team said it was like 200 SMEs at one point, kind of making sure that the playbook's fit for purpose. So I think as well, just getting all of that kind of input, feedback from a community on shaping what is the future ways of working is another kind of outcome. Talks to the values.
And one of our values is together, and it's a great pride in for me that we've built it Helix together, and I think also helped the adoption. If I think about it on reflection. Is we did have a launch event, but by the time we'd got to launch, I think we'd had approaching half the business, half our user base involved either in developing content, testing, piloting, and actually it felt perhaps less of a big reveal as much of a celebration from those that had been involved in what they'd co-created with with those. That community to enable the rest of the business to sort of engage with it and hopefully launch us on for that continuous improvement journey.
Yeah, I think if anyone's watching this, even if you've taken the traditional approach of like writing the process down and getting people adopting ways of working, whether the technology side's the technology, but fundamentally you're trying to get people to adopt kind of your way of working and to deliver that like confidently. But then to your point we both made is you want to feel that they own it and they can change it, they can improve it, they can innovate it. If it's static and it's kind of rigid, you're kind of like easily ignored, I suppose, and difficult to kind of improve. So maybe in terms of the adoption approach, what did you guys do differently for Helix?
I guess, as Paul said, we kind of started in the way we built without necessarily that being the reason for the way we built it, but it's been really helpful. So the way we've kind of organised things, there was a core team who looked after build. I was just one of the content creators at that stage. It was great to be part of it. I was in a different role. Once we went live, I took on the role I have now, which is helping with adoption. And actually going into our offices and speaking to people and finding out how things are going and being able to point around every single office at people who've got us to this point in the journey is a very different feeling to me landing somebody somewhere and saying to some people, here's some stuff, you haven't seen it before and we've just decided now that you have to use it. That I'd find that much more difficult. It's very compelling to arrive and to be able to say, right, first of all, who's done some content creation, and in every office to have some people putting their hands up and saying, And I think it just gives us more kind of patience and grace with the process we need to go on this year with improving it, because it is ours. We need to take ownership of it. There's something that's not right. Somebody didn't do that to you. We've done it to ourselves, and we can fix it ourselves.
Yep.
And it's an easier thing for people to get their head around if they know that their colleague probably put a bit of a late one on a Tuesday to get that done. So if it's not quite perfect, instead of throwing something at it, let's get behind and help and make it better then. And that's really helping with adoption, because inevitably there's going to be things that, it's going to be friction points while we're kind of spotting some of the stuff that we in the period we were able to kind of work on things we haven't quite done. It's often easy when people are going through a change process for them to sort of, the first thing they find that's not quite right, oh, that's the reason, then I'm not going to use that, because that if you know it was, well, we created this together and we can fix it together, that behaviour, it just isn't there in the same way. And so it's really helping with adoption, the ownership that we have of what we've done, and the fact that we're not sat around waiting for somebody else to fix it. We can get on and fix things.
Yeah, I think there's another value. You have trust as well as a core value, and I think that's kind of together and trust, trusting each other. We'll get it right. But then the I suppose the freedom then, or the for them to be able to take ownership is part of that. Is part of that trust.
Yeah, and I think being able to demonstrate that we can make the sort of small incremental changes actually quite quickly if we need to. And is a really great demonstration of sort of adoption and what we're trying to set up, and working with you guys as well to sort of actually improve the platform and iterate actually has been great to go back to our user base and sort of you said we've done something about it. Here's what it is and here's how it's better. Thank you is a great. Helps with the adoption again, doesn't it? Definitely.
And I think the fact that there's so much visibility of the roadmap that you've got for the things that you're actually doing with the platform, so people can see, well, we've made the change. Yes, there's always a bit of time that needs to be invested in making a change, but actually we've moved to something that's going to keep getting better and better. We haven't moved to something static, and that's a really powerful message for people as well, and is helping them understand it's not just what we've got now. Next year it's going to be even better.
Yeah, and you've said some very kind words on the journey. I think it's probably who we are. It's we view it as a partnership in terms of how we kind of manage the relationship between both parties. But I think also people will buy technology from big providers, and it's kind of like you just get what you're given. I think we have the luck of being a SME business that actually we want clients to tell us what the problem is, and then we provide solutions to that to try and respond to that as quickly as we can. I think as a business, I think as long as you peg your ears back and listen to what problems clients are facing, you have a much better chance of being able to provide a solution that they feel anchored to kind of actually that's helping us solve our problems.
Yes, and we're in consultancy. It goes, our clients, we need to listen as well. So it's an important part of what we do as well.
I suppose I think as you go through the kind of build and testing, you're kind of getting to the test point, which is what are teams actually going to say when they have to use it in a live environment. I suppose what was the kind of initial feedback from the first kind of couple of pilots?
And I think that's probably better for you, Paul, because you were hearing it directly.
Yeah, I think generally positive. There was some improvement ideas, but it was nice to see that they saw that it was solving real problems that they had, and they could articulate those back to us. They saw the benefits that we'd put in our business case that led us on this journey. So it was nice to be able to see people respond with oh yes, I do have that problem. I might not have particularly felt burdened with it, but it's great to see this problem solved in a platform. It was great to see sort of people embracing a different way of working. So, that was good. There were improvement ideas that led us to iterate and to improve in that piloting stage. I think for me, there was one moment where I walked into a meeting room, and some colleagues were finishing up. They were meeting a client later that day or the next day, and they'd spontaneously just opened up the playbook with all our services in, and were just planning out how to take the client on a journey of what their challenges were and how we might be able to respond with the appropriate services to sort of form a solution to their challenges. So it was nice instantly to see people using the playbook for all these sort of secondary benefits to what we'd put in place.
Yeah, I think that's comes to that kind of practice siloed behaviour. You kind of offer these services, but not all the teams are working, all of them will have a shared understanding of it. And that the ability to be, if the client's facing that challenge, that problem, to be like, actually, well, that's how we solve that, and it helps bring in the right people to help the client with those additional challenges. Hopefully it's kind of, I get the PS angle, but I think it's a great way of demonstrating value to clients. You've got to be able to demonstrate it. If it's hidden or if people don't know about it, you can't share it, and you can't sell it, I suppose. It's the ultimate comes down to.
Yeah, no, it's certainly been useful to sort of get those, get the champions, get the advocates on board as part of that sort of process of piloting as well, so that we could have those as sort of our advocates out in the business, sort of describing those benefits that they were seeing in it, because inevitably we've got lots of different users, lots of different user profiles, and actually having different advocates who could describe the benefits in a way that meant something to different users was quite powerful.
And I think the point about clients is a really interesting one. We almost need a KPI of how many people have said, can I show my client this, or can I use this with my client? Because our people value their relationship with their clients more than anything else. That you've worked really hard to build that relationship, and there's always a kind of a natural nervousness about the business might want me to do something slightly differently with my client, or introduce somebody. That we do trust each other, but I've put a lot into this relationship. The fact that some people's initial response has been, "This is brilliant. When can I show my client?" just shows you that the vision that they have for what it's doing, because they wouldn't be going there if they weren't absolutely confident that it was quality and it was adding value. So it's been really interesting how many people have immediately gone to that. My client's going to be blown away when they see this and when they understand the power of it.
When we first start talking, I think it's about how you build trust with clients, and when you try and show, look, how are we doing ways of working on the project, it's a SharePoint versus, look, this is something that brings it all to life for our people and for you. And in some ways, there are examples that we have, whereas you have your core playbook, but then you're right sizing and tailoring that directly for the client. So it kind of helps you build, I don't know, a different level of together kind of trust relationship with clients. I think a lot of work we do recently is much more about the intelligent client. So how do we help the intelligent client codify ways of working to work with suppliers to define what good looks like in the process? So there's definitely that's another application of the playbook.
Yeah, and our clients, I think, want to feel heard. They want to feel that we're not just giving them the standard out of the box solution. It needs to be,
and they want to know, if they tell us something once, that all of our people know that, and that's going to be consistent. So that consistency point applies to our clients as well. If they're investing the time in telling us something about how to work with them, that needs to not get lost. We need to be captured.
I think that's the helping you build the longer term relationship, which is you tell us once.
Yeah.
Every time we do a project with you, it's like we'll follow the kind of playbook that's tailored for you. I think not many can offer that as a kind of way of differentiating the kind of relationship that you want to build with clients.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we now? So we launched Helix January 2025.
26.
Oh, 26.
Yeah.
So where are we now then in terms of the rollout?
So we're really in the thick of it at the moment. So all of our new projects now are starting with a playbook, and everyone's kind of getting used to setting up their new projects with a playbook. But we're also in the process of moving over existing projects, and that's ongoing, and that's going to continue for the rest of this financial year. So that means most people in the business now will have a project or a couple of projects that might have a playbook, but they won't have all, probably. They're waiting for some. So we're in the process now of, as people are really starting to use the playbook, spending time with all of our teams and helping them to make sure they've got the skills they need to, and the understanding of as it's when you start using something, you realise the thing that you heard in training was really important, and you need to hear it again. So we're doing that at the moment, and just helping people to not have any frustration if we can avoid it, trying to get to the things that people need to know, and getting the answers out there. So spending a lot of time until the end of May in all of the offices providing that support. Hopefully by then most people will be feeling a lot more confident, because they'll have been using it enough that some of those things will have become second nature.
Yeah, I think it's quite common that when we do these invitations, normally you pick a date, and that's kind of new projects from this date, and then you look at the portfolio and you go, okay, well, which ones do we think are, if it's in the closed stage, you'd be like, let's let that go. But actually, can the playbook meaningfully be tailored for the specific stages that they're currently going to go left to right in, and just get us confidence in terms of how those projects will live?
Yeah. And that will mean that in the new financial year, all of our projects will be using a playbook, so it'll just be the consistent way of working, which there's that other point of kind of consistency between what you do as well. So if you are new to RLB and you join our grad program in September, you won't have slightly different ways of working in different teams. All of your projects, you'll have a playbook. They will all be set up in quite in a similar way. Yes, they'll be tailored, but you'll be able to navigate your way around projects a lot more easily than somebody will joining and having a mixed mode system, and to get their head around that.
It can be quite, I think, if it's when you bring in grads or the kind of entry level roles, it can be very disorientating for them if it's like, well, I'm on this project to work like this, and then on a different project run by someone else, it's completely different. I think at least you're giving them a kind of, I don't know, a safety blanket by which they can become familiar with and develop. So the playbook, I suppose, does become a development resource to help them understand how to.
It is, and some of the positive feedback has been not just around improving that sort of graduates' experience of their learning and development of learning as they deliver projects, but also just freeing up line managers' time of just
not repeating themselves.
Yeah.
And actually, for all of us, because that's one of the reasons I guess we love working in the built environment. Just because you did a project that had an EIA 10 years ago doesn't mean you've done one recently and that you can remember. And so actually, one of the really valuable things has been more experienced colleagues saying, "I've done that for a while, and it was really useful." I didn't have to just ask around the office and find out who'd done that most recently. I could find the latest guidance really easily. Even at bid stage, people are using it to brief themselves and get themselves ready to go and have conversations with their clients, because they know they've got some really good guidance.
Yeah, I've had that feedback before. I think you assume everyone can recall everything, and there are some things that pop up and you're like, oh, hang on. Can't quite remember, and you need that. So I've come across that.
And the lessons learned as well. We should, if we're really listening to our clients and we're listening to our projects of all industries, our industry is constantly learning. So just because you did something 5 years ago doesn't mean there's not a slightly better way of doing it now. And let's make sure we're getting that to people so that we're all ahead of our game, not just the people who've most recently done that thing.
So then I suppose lessons learned and sort of future. I suppose if for someone else going on the kind of ways of working transformation, is there any kind of guidance you would give them about undertaking this type of project?
I think thinking about the way you involve the team all the way through is probably one of the things that we've had a lot of feedback. We've done other change programs, and most businesses are at the moment, and just getting that whole process right really helps for how people feel about what's happening. So thinking about the team and the way you're going to approach the process from the beginning, rather than kind of having it ready to go and thinking, oh, right, now how do we introduce people to this? It's definitely one of the things that feels like we've learned some lessons on.
Yeah, and the fact that it hopefully does feel for everybody in the business it's ours, not something that has been sort of pushed out to them, that's happening to them. They've had the ability to sort of co-create, put their fingerprints on it, and hopefully it reflects their way of working as well. I think the other thing that was really quite flattering actually is we had showed it to our external quality auditors as part of our ongoing sort of process of our 9001 certification. And they actually looked at it, and to be honest, if you're an auditor, there's it's difficult not to love the platform because of what it gives you by way of insight. But actually, they said they could see our values reflected in the content, and I thought that was a really sort of nice way of saying that actually it did reflect us as a business, and hopefully will help our colleagues deliver for clients in a way that is very RLB, that is underpinned by our values.
Yeah, I think we were delighted with the kind of BSI, wasn't it, the feedback from them. But I think this is the challenge sometimes. Like, quality checklists, compliance can feel very cold if you're just told, oh, you just need to fill in the checklist. I think what we're trying to do with Method Grid is, okay, well, actually, it's not just ticking a box. You've got to try and help people understand why it's important, how to do it, and then this is why it's important. This is why we need certain things uploaded and certain things to be ticked off, but they have the context of that. But then obviously, then it's trying to, can we get the platform to help people do the task that they need to do, and that's kind of what we're focused on at the moment with AI.
Yeah. And I think for us, it wasn't. We wanted it to be solving real daily problems and help colleagues deliver projects. Assurance is something that comes almost as a byproduct of what we've done rather than being the primary driver. I think, early days we described it as assurance by stealth. It wasn't to say that assurance isn't really important to us and to our clients. Our clients absolutely want to know that what we're delivering has been gone through a robust, rigorous process of review and assurance, but it's making that an intuitive part of the process rather than a chore that's bolted on.
Which actually makes it more effective. That's the thing. If we can give people some time back in the way they're doing the assurance, they've got more time to put into it, and we'll get a higher quality, assurance process. So that everything we're doing to put people's time in the right place is really valuable, because then they can use that time and have a higher quality outcome.
Yeah, I think as well, it's trying to make things transparent. Yeah. I think the one things people get frustrated with is, I'm not sure what I need to do, or I'm not sure who needs to approve what, and what evidence do I need to get through this gateway, this stage gate? And I'm like, I don't know who I speak to. Those are the real just common questions people ask. I think if you can just make that as transparent and easy for people to find that information, just I suppose the well-being factor is, look, I don't want you to have to stress about ways of working. I just want you to like the client, work with a client, and we've got your back, and we'll give you everything you need. That's something I'm personally proud of. Why
yes, and I think it giving people the right information to do the right thing at the right time, and it's at the right time that is really taking away the friction, really, so that people are doing it.
And it's not underestimating when people are doing a fantastic job for their clients and they're delivering a lot of things. Every step you take out of it, actually, if they're doing that 7 times a day and you've taken a step out 7 times, they're going home half an hour earlier, and they're working really hard. So not underestimating the value in giving people that bit of time back to either go home earlier or to do something a little bit more that they wanted to do. How great is that? Because we did have, you could find it all, but the tool was working against you rather than for you before. So you had to go somewhere and find something and open it, and so to do the right thing, you had to put some effort in. And we all know it's much easier to do the right thing if it's just there.
If it's just easy, No, we are lazy creatures. Yeah, so we will cheat to pick the path of least resistance every time.
And busy creatures.
Is there anything, both to your question, is there anything, I suppose, one thing you're really proud of what you've achieved with Helix?
I think one of my biggest, because I'm spending a lot of time with the teams at the moment, so some of our offices, if I've been to them recently, everyone in there will know, who I am and why I'm there. But sometimes there'll be some people who are newer to the business and might not recognise me, and I'll get there in the morning. I can say, Helix Day today. Yeah, I haven't sort of had the time to open it yet. I've been on holiday and I need to figure out what it is, and you kind of just hear the little rumblings, and then getting to the end of the day and hearing the difference in the conversation and seeing people, sometimes it's just kind of clicking for somebody and them starting to realise, oh, this isn't just, a slightly better bit of software that helps me do something I had to do before. There are all of these possibilities that come from it, and almost I think every office I've been in so far, I've left the day excited by something that they thought of that I hadn't thought of yet. And it just the possibility that we've got there is really exciting. So I think it's starting to hear people's ideas. And one of the things that's really getting people excited is that when they realise that the point you were talking about before, that we can now capture all that amazing knowledge that we have about our clients, and we can share it in much more effective ways, so that we don't have to remember to ring everybody else in the team or send them a message to say, just so you know, such body's off and they're covering. We can communicate. We've got this really good forum for making sure that we're giving the best service to our clients, and that's really what most of our people want. They want an easier way to make their clients have a really good experience, and we're giving them that. We're giving them a tool, and you can see different teams sort of thinking of using it in different ways. How depending on their client, what is it that they're going to need, but just starting to click. This is actually going to help make sure that my client's happy at the end of the week.
And I think for me, I'd pick out two things as sort of something I take great pride in what we've delivered with Helix. One is that we've been able to reflect our values into our way of working. I think that was really important from the off, really, and our earliest conversations. You embraced that with us as well, so thank you. And I think the second is just that together point. It's the fact that we've built this with such a great breadth of knowledge from around the business. I think it puts us in a really good place to make it even better as we do that continuous improvement bit.
Cool. Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. Really, really proud of what we've achieved. So thank you. I suppose for anyone watching, just thank you for watching. But also, I think this is just a great example of what shows what you can achieve when you move beyond just writing the process down and focus on codifying ways of working for people and teams. So thank you very much, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.